Let's talk a little bit about just general thoughts on what could be next. So not to move on too quickly, but I think Amy Adams Strunk and Rand Carthen, they need to bring in an innovative, forward-thinking coach to guide this team. Generally speaking, I think an offensive coach would be ideal in general. There are a few young and exciting defensive candidates this cycle, like Mike McDonald out of Baltimore, for example, that I'm intrigued by. But I think for the development of Will Levis, for the future proofing of this team a little bit, I think an offensive head coach here is the move. And also, if you don't go offensive, you go CEO defensive type, and you replace Vrabel with another, I have a hard time justifying that move in general, right? I think it has to be an offensive guy.
Yeah, I think so. Personally, it's kind of what I said earlier on Twitter. I said, currently for me, and this is obviously going to change, but it's Bobby Slowick for me. It's maybe Ben Johnson or bust. I think those are the two guys with this young Will Levis team, with Tyjae Spear, with some really key young guys who we've seen when put in the right scheme, they really can succeed. Like a guy like Bobby Slowick, I think is a home run for me. And that's currently the guy that I think would be the best candidate for this team. But we'll have to see.
Just sending off a real quick text that's very important. Sorry.
No, you're good. I would say, like you said, Mike McDonald, he also is a very intriguing candidate. Todd Monken also is an intriguing candidate as well. But yeah, I mean, they have to take a guy who is going to think outside the box and not fall into this defensive side kind of leader of men type that Mike Vrabel was. Like, it has to be an entire shift.
Okay. Thank you for buying me some time there. Yes, it has to be an entire shift. And when you look at the 6 current NFL head coaching openings, I think this is good news for the Titans. Really, I do. Here are the teams that currently need a coach, assuming interim coaches don't get picked up: Panthers, Raiders, Chargers, Falcons, Commanders, Titans. On paper, I think objectively Tennessee is immediately near the top of that list in terms of attractive landing spots. I really do, because and Amy Adams Strunk laid out the gist of this in her statement. High draft picks, ton of money to spend, a new forward-thinking GM who you're going to be aligned with, young, talented quarterback, some talented pieces from last year's draft. A lot of these teams have issues, but I think that the Titans are near the top of the teams that come to mind immediately for me. The Panthers are a mess. No way the Panthers is a better spot. You want to work for that owner? Really? Dave Tepper? The Raiders, also kind of like, who's their quarterback?
I do think Antonio Pierce should get that job.
I agree. I think that he's the best option for them. The Chargers, a lot of Jim Harbaugh interest. So that, or John Harbaugh interest. Wait, no, Jim.
No, Jim. It is Jim.
Jim, dadgummit. I was thinking guess myself. Jim Harbaugh interest. The Chargers are a fair one because the intrigue as a coach of coaching Justin Herbert, that clears for sure. 100%. I think a lot of non-Chargers fans maybe don't realize this. Look into their financials.
Yeah, Tighten Up Tony says they have no cap.
They have less than no cap. It's sneaky a disaster, their financial situation. Their immediate fixes to fix their cap situation, of which they're many, many millions of dollars over the cap projected right now. They're going to have to, there's some contracts for very old aging players that you could extend that they're not going to want to do. They've got a couple of guys that are about to need money. It's kind of a mess. So from a future asset situation, kind of a gross spot, but that's up there with the Titans. Falcons, man,
I think that's the sneaky most attractive one.
If you think of a way of getting a quarterback in there, yep, I'm with you. I think it's up there. Commanders are definitely up there because you've got some real talent on that offense. Defense needs some help, but you've got a really high draft pick. Number 2, right?
New ownership. Yep.
New ownership, big market, chance to go get Drake May or Caleb Williams and get your quarterback like that. I would say Commanders clears all. I think Commanders is the best landing spot for me right now, if I had to guess. But I think the top tier is Commanders. I think third tier, depending on who you are and what you want, it's Titans, Falcons, Chargers, all kind of right there. And you can make arguments for any of those 3 being the number 2 best spot. That's a good position for the Titans to be in. Really, it is. And we know that Amy Adams Strunk, reportedly, we don't know this, we think this based on reports, she's willing to give out big boy, top of the market NFL contracts. If she's willing to do that again here, that's something that's going to be really attractive to guys. Zero state income tax and like all of these things, they apply. And I think that's something that's worth looking into, worth talking about.
Yep, I agree.
Couple closing thoughts for us here before we're done. Just I want to wrap all this up with a bow. The hardest hit in all of this, it's easy to neglect, but it's important to remember. It's Titans' young quarterback, Will Levis. He needs continuity bad, and we talked about this a lot coming into this potential decision. It happens, and now there's a chance that some of his coaches stick around, but they're at risk of changing now too, a very high risk. If they go find a great offensive head coach who can put him in positions to succeed, like that can change really quickly. But in general, it's a very bad idea to constantly change the people around a young quarterback. And some folks are going to say, oh, he's a rookie. This is his first change. We are now confirming, unless somehow Tim Kelly sticks around and all his coaches stick around and they stick with the same offense, which I don't really doubt they're going to do. This is going to be his 4th consecutive year of changing offensive coordinators and changing offenses. That's not a way. It's the way to stunt the growth of a young quarterback. It's really, really bad historically. Now, Levis is a baller. The past 3 times he's overcome it, and he's been fine. But fine is not. Eventually, fine's not any good, and eventually, fine starts to get in your head, and eventually, the expectations rise as you're in the NFL longer, and if you can't develop from a fundamental standpoint, if in the offseason you're so focused on learning new guys and learning how to compete in a new offense and learning terminology, like all of these things, and you can't focus on the fundamentals, can't focus on developing from a mechanic standpoint, developing with your teammates and a relationship standpoint, like that starts to wear on a quarterback's ability to succeed. It starts to lower their ceiling, and that's really, really bad. So that's a big deal, and I feel for him in this situation. Hopefully he can overcome this. Finding a good head coach is hard, JT. It's really, really hard. And also lost in all of this is the fact that the Titans now have to play the lottery, the coaching lottery. They got to go find a guy that's as good or better than Mike Vrabel for this to be a success, which is a really high bar to clear, in my opinion. In the NFL, I think this is the perfect analogy for it. In the NFL, finding a head coach is fishing in a really small pond. Ton of small fry out there. Guppies, you got to release them by law, got to throw them back. The Titans, they chose to throw away a keeper today. They had a keeper in the boat for the past 6 years. They decided to toss it back. Dangerous move, in my opinion. There are always bigger, better keepers out there amongst countless minnows. So happy fishing is what I have to say to the Titans on that one. And then here's the crazy thing, in talking to you and some of our friends about this move, talking about like, are the Titans of the poverty of the AFC now? Like what's going to happen? Are they doomed now? Here's the crazy thing about them in this situation. And if you're looking for a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel here it is. In 6 weeks from now, the Titans could have Ben Johnson or the Shane Steichen of the year, where it's like the offensive wonderkind who comes in and blows everybody's mind, and you can't talk enough good things about the things that they're doing for your young quarterback and for your offense and the innovation and the excitement. That can all happen. And they have that guy in the house, and suddenly they're rocking and rolling with a very modern, very forward-thinking head coach GM tandem. They got a metric ton of money, high draft picks. Everything looks sick and exciting again. It can really change in an instant that quickly. But right now, things feel horrendous because they've handled what could ultimately be a good and necessary change. This can ultimately be a good and necessary change. They've handled it so poorly today. Then how does that inspire any confidence in them not messing it up? Because the bottom line is this offseason, as Amy said herself in her statement, is her legacy moment, is the biggest offseason in Titans, maybe modern history. They have to get the coaching search right. They got to get the guy. If she fails, the city and the fan base are going to turn on her potentially for good. And so far, after today, I'm pretty concerned. So that's my 2 cents on the situation. We're now officially 90 minutes into this. Finn, any thoughts from you, JT, before we're done?
I think that perfectly sums up our descent into madness today and what how today has felt. So